Earth is engulfed in a sea of flames with debris scattered throughout the cosmos. Humanity is plunged into absolute chaos, struggling against existences that defy all comprehension. The United Nations resolutely rejects every demand from the mysterious civilization. The United States declares, "The monsters are trying to turn humans into food. We cannot accept those terms." A colossal creature with a single eye emerges from the sea, bringing destruction in its wake. A terrifying explosion engulfs the city as the power of destruction spreads. A giant octopus rises from the ashes, bringing sheer terror with it. The final ray of hope has flickered out. Amidst the desolation, Li Jian faces the danger with a greatsword resting on his shoulder. Meanwhile, a man is desperately trying to protect a child from the assault of the giant sea creature. A powerful strike descends from the sky, causing the ground to tremble. The man's face is etched with horror as he confronts the tragedy. A blinding light erupts, tearing through the night. Li Jian dives into the fray, dodging the tentacles of the sea monster. Humanity calls the 12 individuals blessed by the god's saints, but a 13th human who received no blessing has appeared. The person standing there is none other than the legend Li Jian, the very incarnation of destruction. To annihilate the Red Eye, the source of the calamity, we gathered at the Devil's Tower. Li Jian lets out a sigh of relief, preparing for the battle ahead. Li Jian is ready to fight, radiating an overwhelming aura. A reporter questions, "What happened? Why did only 12 people return?" Another reporter shouts, "Where has the Korean hero, Li Jian, gone?" The architect stands behind the podium, silent. Li Jian, the name is uttered with a choked voice, a legend who chose to immolate himself to preserve the last shred of hope for humanity. He accepted being torn apart to salvage the final flickering hope for mankind. Amidst the quiet city, the golden sunset casts a long shadow over the office building, where dark secrets are slowly being unveiled. On the dining table, a plate of piping hot fried chicken has just been served. A cold warning rings out, shattering the peaceful atmosphere. Hugo stares straight at Li Jian with a look of grave concern and anxiety. Li Jian remains unfazed. He continues to enjoy his piece of chicken while responding with a sarcastic tone. Li Jian laughs loudly, his eyes filled with defiance as he continues to devour his meal. Hugo's patience seems to have run out, veins bulging on his forehead as he is forced to remind Li Jian of his name once again. Li Jian remains indifferent, reassuring Hugo with an air of complete confidence. To Li Jian, death is merely a triviality, having already wiped out countless calamities that even the 12 saints feared. Hugo can only remain silent. Li Jian's words leave him with no room for rebuttal. Behind this glamorous facade lies the dwelling of the most terrifying disaster that once pushed humanity to the brink of extinction. On the last day of the 20th century, the world was plunged into a sea of fire as evil entities emerged, completely overwhelming humanity. Amidst the chaos, the 12 saints appeared, bringing a faint glimmer of hope. The 12 saints selected 12 awakened individuals to bestow power upon, but that plan soon encountered an unexpected variable. Li Jian had awakened without receiving any blessings from the gods. Not just an outsider, Li Jian also possesses power that far exceeds any conventional limits. Li Jian's weapon, stained with the blood of his enemies, stands as a testament to an overwhelming strength unmatched by anyone. Compared to the other 12, Li Jian's very existence is a staggering miracle. When asked about his identity, Li Jian stands amidst the rubble of the monsters, asserting his peerless status. Li Jian, a name that has become both a source of terror and humanity's only hope. Hugo does not forget to express his gratitude, as it was thanks to Li Jian that this demon tower was conquered. Li Jian brushes off the formalities, caring only about having his fried chicken paid for by Hugo for the next 5 years. Hugo is so furious that his veins pop. He is forced to correct the pronunciation of his name once again. Meanwhile, the 12 saints start daydreaming about the massive rewards they will receive after eliminating this calamity. The 12 saints discuss their lavish lifestyles, ignoring the lurking dangers. Li Jian hears it all. His gaze turns icy as he sees right through the greedy nature of the 12 saints. One of the 12 saints mocks Li Jian, suggesting he needs the money to repair his scar-covered body. Li Jian scoffs in silence. In his eyes, the 12 saints are nothing more than thugs dressed as saints. Li Jian continues to expose the true face of the 12 saints, adding one final crucial warning. Li Jian warns the 12 saints not to rush to the scene, as they need a high casualty count to profit from the bounty. Li Jian cannot hide his disgust, deciding to cut all ties with those bastards as soon as he finishes off the Crimson Eye. Suddenly, the ground shakes violently and the stone structures begin to shatter. Hugo and those around him realize in horror that something terrifying is rising. Their eyes lock forward, where a chilling pressure is enveloping the entire space. The Demon Tower's boss, Crimson Eye, officially makes its appearance amidst everyone's sheer terror. Even Li Jian feels the suffocating oppression radiating from Crimson Eye's gaze. Crimson Eye roars, magical flames erupting from its maw as if to incinerate everything. Hugo and the others panic, desperately trying to dodge the destructive attack from Crimson Eye. Li Jian stomps hard on the ground, bracing himself for a counterattack. Ground crumbles under the sheer force of Li Jian's power. Li Jian takes his stance, ready to withstand the scorching heat rushing toward him from Crimson Eye. The flames from Crimson Eye swept across the area, leveling every obstacle in their path. A massive column of fire descended, turning the surrounding area into a sea of flames. The sheer force of the explosion sent Hugo and the others flying away. The flames soared to the heavens, engulfing the entire tower in chaos. Thick smoke obscured their vision, leaving only the sound of utter destruction. Hugo and the survivors trembled, unable to believe what they had just witnessed. The heat continued to spread as the ground beneath their feet began to crack. Streams of lava erupted, swallowing everything in their path. Crimson Eye stood tall, reigning amidst the clouds of magical smoke and dust. Crimson Eye bared its fangs, bracing for the next strike. Overcome with fear, those around could only let out desperate cries for help. With no other choice, the survivors fled in a chaotic scramble to escape the danger. Li Jian watched the cowards run, feeling nothing but contempt for their titles as saints. But that didn't matter. Li Jian gripped his weapon tightly, his eyes filled with resolve. Li Jian knew that he alone had the power to finish off Crimson Eye. Li Jian himself would be the one to put an end to Crimson Eye. A cataclysmic collision occurred as Li Jian lunged directly toward Crimson Eye. Li Jian delivered a decisive blow, confronting Crimson Eye head-on. Unflinching, Li Jian unleashed precise, lethal slashes into the army of monsters surrounding him on all sides. Clenching a short blade between his teeth, Li Jian suppressed his pain, telling himself he must keep killing to survive. Darkness descended. The only things left in this place were the glowing red eyes of predators waiting to feast on their prey. Li Jian stood alone in a sea of monsters, a blue aura enveloping his body like a final flame before the storm. Wounded and battered, Li Jian wondered if this desperate resistance would truly be enough to save his life. Li Jian's eyes blazed with determination, visible on his blood-stained face. He refused to fall here. Gritting his teeth, Li Jian swore to survive at any cost, no matter how powerful the enemy. Li Jian's gaze turned icy cold as he focused all his energy on the target ahead. Li Jian lunged forward, his powerful strides tearing through the air and cornering the monsters. The enemy cried out in terror, unable to believe that Li Jian could penetrate this deep. Faced with overwhelming power, the monsters trembled and begged for mercy, hoping for a savior to appear. Li Jian responded coldly with a finishing blow, showing no hesitation despite their desperate pleas. With a single decisive slash, fresh blood sprayed as he ended the enemy's existence. Li Jian gasped for air, standing over the pile of monster corpses strewn at his feet. Is this truly the end of this brutal struggle for survival? Suddenly, the ground shook violently as rubble fell as if to bury everything beneath it. Li Jian braced himself, struggling to find an exit from this terrifying collapse. Everything around him began to crumble. There was no time for hesitation. Li Jian was swept up in the tremor, his body tossed amidst the scattered debris. A desolate scene emerged. The city lay in ruins under a gloomy sunset. Screams echoed through the buildings as people scrambled in panic from the disaster. Panic reached its peak as the survivors realized their fatal mistake. High-level monsters suddenly appeared, cutting off every path of escape for them. Facing imminent death, the man could only laugh in sheer desperation. A powerful strike from the monster tore through the air, aimed directly at the target. Terrifying collision sent the man flying, leaving him mercilessly crushed. Pinned to the ground, his breathing grew heavy amidst the ruins. Surrounded by a pack of bloodthirsty monsters, despair engulfed the last remaining survivors. As despair closed in, the last survivors could only wish that Li Jian was still alive to quell this catastrophe. Just then, the gates of the eerie tower shook violently and ancient runes began to glow with an ominous light. The survivors were stunned by the terrifying surge of energy erupting from within. A blinding flash of light swallowed the space, signaling the arrival of an unthinkable entity. The energy explosion tore through the ground, with thick dust obscuring everyone's vision. Hugo and those around him quickly shielded their faces, struggling to withstand the immense pressure from the aftershock. Devastating shockwave leveled the entire area, turning the rubble into a flat wasteland. Beneath the scattered bricks and stones, Hugo wheezed in pain, unable to comprehend what had just happened. Suddenly, Hugo was stunned as he saw a figure emerging from the ruins of the tower. Hugo exclaimed in shock, pointing toward Li Jian as he approached, a man who had survived the collapse. Bare feet stepped through the hazy smoke. Life persisted in a truly mysterious way. Amidst the ruined, desolate landscape, Li Jian stood alone, radiating power. Li Jian clenched his fists, his breathing heavy with killing intent. His rage was beginning to boil over. Li Jian roared in fury. He could not forgive those who had betrayed him and driven him into this death trap. With eyes burning with bloodlust, Li Jian declared a death sentence upon anyone who dared to stand in his way. The ground trembles violently, chunks of concrete shattering and being flung into the air amidst the devastation. Jimin and Fader cower behind the rubble, gasping in terror at the catastrophe unfolding right before their eyes. A wolf-like monster with blood-red eyes lets out a roar, slamming its powerful fist into the ground. Li Jian doesn't even flinch, retaliating with a thunderous kick aimed straight at his enemy. Jimin and Fader are utterly stunned, unable to believe their eyes as they watch Li Jian confront the orange-level calamities. Li Jian effortlessly grabs a wolf, swinging his arm to swat away the pack of monsters as if they were nothing more than annoying insects. Li Jian stands there, his face cold and imposing, his shark gaze fixed ahead. A blinding pillar of light suddenly pierces through the ground, leaving Jimin and Fader completely dumbfounded. Li Jian stands at the heart of the light pillar, the immense pressure causing the surrounding ground to shatter completely. Jimin and Fader frantically back away as they realize Li Jian is turning his attention toward them. Li Jian asks them how they are doing nonchalantly, as if he had just finished a simple cleanup job. Jimin and Fader whisper to each other, amazed by the appearance of Li Jian as he emerges from the ruined tower. Li Jian stands in the center of the magic circle, looking at Jimin and Fader with a suspicious expression. Behind Li Jian, a giant wolf alpha with a blazing red aura roars with killing intent. Jimin and Fader scream in despair upon realizing that the most dangerous monster has appeared. Li Jian turns around, his cold gaze ordering Jimin and Fader to run away immediately. The alpha wolf lets out a roar, crimson lightning surging around its body as it prepares to unleash a destructive attack. A stream of red energy erupts from the alpha wolf's mouth, tearing through space itself. Jimin and Fader cover their heads and scream, struggling under the overwhelming pressure of the alpha wolf's attack. Li Jian unleashes his ultimate technique, a burst of golden light clashing head-on with the alpha wolf's assault. The collision triggers a violent energy storm, causing the entire area to shake incessantly. The golden light completely overwhelms and shreds the alpha wolf's red energy beam. A massive explosion engulfs the entire city, a blinding brilliance washing away everything in sight. Jimin and Fader are shocked to realize they are still alive after the terrifying explosion. The alpha wolf's eyes constrict in terror as it realizes the overwhelming power of Li Jian. Li Jian stands firm, his muscular frame radiating a majestic aura. Li Jian shields Jimin and Fader, creating a safe zone amidst the burning debris. Jimin and Fader look at Li Jian with eyes full of admiration and gratitude. Li Jian cracks a lethal grin, preparing to deliver the finishing blow to his enemy. Li Jian leaps into the air, lunging straight toward the giant beast that stares up at him with blood-red eyes. Without a hint of hesitation, Li Jian throws a powerful punch, hurling insults at the enemy before him. Witnessing the horrific scene, Jimin and Fader are frozen in shock, unable to utter a single word. Li Jian strikes the ground with a thunderous blow. The shockwave sends dust billowing, obscuring everything. As the aftershock fades, the monster lies completely defeated amidst the rubble, while Li Jian stands tall like a god. Li Jian brushes off his hands, nonchalantly turning to ask Jimin and Fader if it's truly over. Li Jian's gaze flicks toward Jimin and Fader, making them feel the weight of an invisible, crushing pressure. Li Jian gives an order, causing Jimin and Fader to immediately jolt into an upright position. Surrounded by a blue aura, Li Jian coldly commands Jimin and Fader to leave at once. Jimin and Fader tremble, unsure of where to go in the midst of this chaos. Li Jian smiles, casually requesting that Jimin and Fader go get him some food. Jimin and Fader stood frozen in place, staring at Li Jian with bewildered expressions after his bizarre request. Li Jian didn't forget to add more demands regarding his clothing, making the atmosphere incredibly awkward. At a fast food joint, Li Jian devoured a massive amount of food. The empty pot, scraped clean of every drop of broth, stood as a testament to Li Jian's terrifying appetite. Jimin and Fader nearly fainted when they saw the bill. The total was astronomical. Li Jian remained unfazed, even chiding Jimin and Fader for holding back when ordering, assuming they were broke. Li Jian brazenly ordered another serving of ramen, completely ignoring the mounting fury of Jimin and Fader. Jimin curiously asked about Li Jian's true identity and why he was lurking around the tower. Li Jian nonchalantly replied that he had just stepped out of the tower, leaving Jimin stunned. Jimin couldn't hide his suspicion and directly questioned the source of the magical energy radiating from Li Jian. Jimin reasoned that it must be because Li Jian was a disciple and turned the question back, asking about Li Jian's true identity. Li Jian spoke of the gods with contempt and refused to serve them. Li Jian caught his reflection in a spoon and suddenly noticed something strange. Li Jian's expression shifted completely, his eyes widening in shock. Li Jian frantically demanded to know where the mirror was, drawing the attention of everyone in the diner. Li Jian touched his face, sensing a strange change in his skin. Before the mirror, Li Jian realized his body had completely healed without a single scar left behind. Li Jian pondered over his old wounds, which should have been impossible to heal without sacrificing his power. Li Jian looked down at his left arm with deep skepticism. A strange mark suddenly appeared on Li Jian's palm, leaving him utterly baffled. The mark began to move, winding and twisting like a serpent filled with magical power. Li Jian winced, feeling a surge of violent power invading his body. The system immediately issued a chilling notification: Li Jian had truly experienced death. But Li Jian had accomplished the impossible. All previous abilities would be transferred to his new body, and achievements from the tower would be converted into experience points. All unique skills and traits would be inherited and evolved. Li Jian could now wield the power of Ophiuchus. Li Jian's eyes lit up. A profound transformation was taking place deep within his mind. Amidst a mystical cosmic space, an entity bearing Li Jian's form with flaming hair appeared. Li Jian faced the giant serpent, its oppressive gaze seemingly testing his resolve. Li Jian reached out his hand, touching the raw power of the beast. A blinding flash of light exploded as Li Jian connected directly with the power of Ophiuchus. Energy surged violently, engulfing everything in its wake. Li Jian abruptly snapped awake, bolting upright on the floor with a look of bewilderment. Li Jian stared at his hand, unable to comprehend what had just happened. Jimin approached anxiously, asking about Li Jian's condition. Li Jian blankly asked Jimin if he had seen any snakes. Jimin shook his head, recounting how Li Jian had stripped, ran in front of the mirror, and screamed in fear. Li Jian wondered if he was the only one who could see the mark. A glint sparked in Li Jian's eyes as he realized the change. The system confirmed Li Jian had officially become the master of Ophiuchus. Li Jian stood amidst a magic circle, with skill status boards glowing brilliantly all around him. The super regeneration skill is activated, allowing for the healing of all wounds, but it comes with a penalty of a 50% reduction in stamina. Li Jian contemplates this new skill, something he has never heard of from any other saints. Even stranger is the fact that Li Jian can no longer sense the presence of any gods. Nevertheless, Li Jian reassures himself that his body has recovered, which is what matters most. Li Jian's eyes turn cold. He has identified his next goal: to eliminate those who betrayed him. Li Jian tenses up, filled with excitement at the thought of punishing those traitors. The crime scene is cordoned off by police, with a tense atmosphere hanging in the air. Impregnable Demon Tower has collapsed. This news will surely shake the entire world. The fall of the Demon Tower has sparked public outrage. Is this the plan of Li Jian's loyalists, or an act of retaliation from the disciples who despise him? Jimin and Fader cannot help but be suspicious. The perils within that tower were things even high-ranking saints feared. The corpses of fierce creatures lie among the ruins. Who could possibly have the power to wipe out these monsters and level the entire tower? The question of Li Jian's survival begins to haunt Jimin's mind. Has Li Jian truly returned? Fader can only sigh. It is too early for any answers. They can only wait for the truth to be revealed. Amidst the city, the skyscrapers stand tall like witnesses to an era about to change. The camera lens points directly at the saint. The pressure from the media is weighing heavily on his shoulders. Reporters keep firing questions, desperate for a definitive answer on whether Li Jian is still alive. Saint of the Ares Temple stands at the podium, maintaining a cold, expressionless face despite the crowd's interrogation. The saint smirks slightly and states briefly that he has no comment on the matter. The saint's silence causes the crowd to erupt. They refuse to accept such a vague answer. A luxury car speeds away, leaving the chaos of the press conference behind. Inside the car, the saint punches the seat. Fury erupts as the name Li Jian keeps haunting him. The saint roars in bitterness. To him, the name Li Jian is an insult that must be erased. The saint cannot believe his ears. Could Li Jian have truly survived for 20 years in that hellish tower? It is unthinkable. With tens of thousands of black-level creatures residing there, how could a human possibly survive? Even escaping with those red eyes was already a miracle. The saint wonders how Li Jian could have possibly made it out. The saint deduces that Li Jian's body must have been destroyed by the backlash of his own power, as he had received no blessings from the gods. But if Li Jian is truly alive, it would be a catastrophe. The saint takes a long drag of his cigarette, trying to calm himself in the face of the worst-case scenario. If Li Jian returns, everything he has worked so hard to build will collapse. The saint grinds his teeth, determined not to let that happen. Meanwhile, Li Jian looks at his phone with a murderous smile. He is ready to crush the one behind it all. Amidst the deep blue sky, a commercial airplane tears through the wind, signaling the start of a crucial journey. The massive aircraft touches down on the runway, dust billowing up under the immense weight of steel and engines. Hugo Otters steps firmly onto the stairs, greeted by a formal and solemn welcome. Security personnel bow respectfully. They consider it a great honor to be in the presence of Hugo Otters. Hugo Otters appears with an air of elegant authority. Hugo Otters coldly asks for the Prime Minister's whereabouts and is immediately escorted by his subordinates to a waiting car. Hugo Otters walks with decisive steps, leaving the security staff bowing behind him. The sheer presence of Hugo Otters leaves those around him overwhelmed and filled with admiration. In their eyes, Hugo Otters is the true embodiment of a chosen one. Luxury vehicle speeds away, cutting through the thick fog on the streets. Inside the car, Hugo Otters sits in deep contemplation, the silence stifling. Suddenly, a ringing phone breaks the stillness. Hugo Otters glances at the vibrating device on the table. Hugo Otters frowns, annoyed, assuming it's those pesky reporters spinning conspiracy theories about Li Jian still being alive. The phone screen only shows an unknown number calling, signaling some potentially bad news. Hugo Otters slams his hand on the seat, his patience reaching its limit after this matter has dragged on for over 20 years. The handheld device remains there, silently waiting for a response. Hugo Otters maintains a stern expression, his deep eyes seemingly calculating something. A cold threat echoes, tomorrow will be the end of Li Jian. Li Jian, with a scarred face, smirks and asks the opponent why they are so eager for death. Memories flood back as Hugo Otters recalls fighting monsters outside the tower under Li Jian's orders. Hugo Otters once prayed that his prophecy was wrong, hoping only for Li Jian's safe return. But the brutal truth left Hugo Otters shaken, unable to believe what had happened to Li Jian. Andre had abandoned Li Jian, bringing back only the head of the red-eyed monster to claim the credit. Thanks to that cowardly act, Andre and his cronies were recognized and received glory that wasn't rightfully theirs. The present-day Hugo Otters, with bandaged wounds, still carries the pain of the past. Even though Hugo Otters repeatedly demanded a search for Li Jian, all efforts ended in futility. Andre flashes a sinister smile, flatly rejecting Hugo Otters' request. Andre mocks Hugo Otters, calling it foolish to believe that Li Jian is still alive. Andre challenges Hugo Otters to go find Li Jian himself, accompanied by malicious taunts about the positions of the constellations. Hugo Otters endures excruciating pain with a bandage-covered face, his eyes betraying extreme tension. Hugo Otters tries to stay calm, but his gaze cannot hide his unease. Sitting in the car, Hugo Otters adjusts his collar, his mind troubled by the mounting pressure. The image of Li Jian appears in Hugo Otters' mind like a painful reminder of the past. The phone rings, interrupting Hugo Otters' thoughts as the Prime Minister calls. Without waiting for the other end to speak, Hugo coldly growls, cutting through the pretense with a murderous tone. Prime Minister gets straight to the point. The Demon Tower has collapsed. Hugo Otters must have heard the news. Hugo Otters sighs, running a hand through his hair. That again? Hugo Otters responds decisively, I'm sorry, but if you want me to go find Li Jian, I refuse. Hugo Otters coldly asserts, Li Jian died in that tower a long time ago. This is definitely the work of Li Jian's subordinates. Hugo Otters doesn't want to be dragged into political schemes. If you intend to use this for your campaign, don't even think about dragging me into it. The Prime Minister cut in, his voice grim. According to government reports, that communication line just started ringing. A chill ran down Hugo's spine, his pupils constricting. The death knell had truly rung. Panic flared in Hugo Otters' eyes as the horrifying realization hit him. Feeling as though his chest would burst, Hugo Otters screamed in desperation, this is impossible, this is pure madness. Unable to keep his composure, Hugo Otters bellowed at his driver, stop the car, right now. The car slammed on its brakes, kicking up a blinding swirl of dust on the road. Hugo Otters stared tremblingly at his phone, his intuition warning him about the relentless missed calls. Screen displayed 30 missed calls and 1 waiting voicemail. Hugo Otters was left stunned, cold sweat pouring off him as he stared at the screen. Hugo Otters' shaking finger touched the screen, deciding to listen to the voicemail. Hugo Otters' heart pounded wildly, feeling as if it might shatter within his chest. On the other end of the line, Tex's cold voice cut through the deadly silence. Li Jian's eyes burned with a blood-red killing intent as he hissed, chilling to the bone, I'm going to drag you out. Without a second of hesitation, Li Jian sneered, you're heading to the grave, you'd better start praying. Hugo Otters froze, his face turning deathly pale. This voice, it can't be Li Jian. Hugo Otters gasped in utter disbelief. Is that really you, Li Jian? Without wasting another second, Hugo Otters commanded, turn the car around immediately. We must head back to the airport. A quiet kimbap shop in the heart of the city, hiding secrets no one could have ever imagined. Li Jian stared at the phone screen, a sinister grin spreading across his face as he mentioned an old acquaintance. Before Li Jian, his comrades remained curious about the identity of the person Li Jian kept calling. Li Jian seemed utterly fascinated by this modern piece of technology, viewing it as something bizarre. Li Jian pondered, recalling the moment he entered the tower 20 years ago, comparing it to the world of today. Li Jian's curiosity reached its peak as he sought to search for information about himself on the internet. Li Jian's comrades quickly guided him on how to access the trending articles. A series of headlines regarding Li Jian's survival appeared, leaving the whole group astonished. But as they read the malicious comments, the atmosphere grew tense and thick with fury. Li Jian lost control, his hand gripping the phone so hard it nearly shattered from his rage. Indignation exploded when Li Jian realized that the cowards of the past were now being hailed as heroes. Li Jian tried to take a deep breath, forcing himself to calm down before things went too far. A crucial memory flashed through Li Jian's mind regarding his old will. Information regarding Li Jian donating his entire fortune appeared on the screen, acting as proof of the past. Li Jian wondered whether those assets had actually been used according to his wishes. The harsh truth was laid bare: all of Li Jian's legacy had fallen into the hands of others. Li Jian's wrath erupted as he declared he would flatten every single person who had betrayed him. Li Jian's comrades stared at him in shock, while the phone seemed like a soul whispering in the dark. Li Jian sat in contemplation, calculating his next move in his plan for revenge. His completely changed appearance made Li Jian realize he couldn't reveal himself so abruptly. The decision was clear: Li Jian would hide in the shadows and eliminate each enemy one by one, silently. Suddenly, an aura of killing intent blanketed the space, making the entire room feel suffocating. A system notification appeared, warning Li Jian that someone was following him. Li Jian's gaze turns ice cold as he instantly senses the presence of an intruder. Not giving his opponent a moment to react, Li Jian stands up and leaves the dining table to confront the enemy. The sound of Li Jian's footsteps rings out with a menacing tone, signaling that a battle is about to begin. Fiery, demonic entities appear, surrounding Li Jian from every direction. Li Jian realizes these are the constructs, minions of the gods who are targeting him. The system continuously updates with notifications regarding barriers and demands for tribute from the enemy. Li Jian roars with disdain, ready to crush every obstacle standing in his way. Unable to hide his contempt, Li Jian growls as he questions Andre about who really owns this territory. Andre smirks, his eyes filled with mockery as he stares straight at Li Jian. The surrounding space becomes annoyingly noisy due to the relentless chatter about Li Jian. Li Jian listens coldly, while Andre and his lackeys stroll past as if nothing is happening. Andre scoffs, showing no hesitation as he belittles Li Jian in front of everyone. The badge on Andre's chest glows, a clear symbol of the Gemini organization. Realizing the identity of the people who just appeared, Hugo Otters is left in shock. Andre stops, his eyes fixed on Li Jian with a defiant glare. Hugo Otters frantically urges Li Jian, trying to prevent an unnecessary conflict. Li Jian maintains a terrifyingly calm expression, his eyes narrowing dangerously. Andre blows smoke into Li Jian's face and delivers a series of arrogant insults. Hugo Otters can only hold his head in despair as the situation goes from bad to worse. Andre steps closer, intentionally provoking Li Jian with a thick cloud of cigarette smoke. Li Jian stands tall amidst the tense atmosphere as a murderous aura begins to envelop the area. Andre leans in, bringing his face close to Li Jian's, and dares him to strike if he's angry enough. Andre's lackeys laugh, urging him to leave because they believe Li Jian wouldn't dare do anything. Before turning away, Andre utters one final, contemptuous insult. Andre and his lackeys walk away nonchalantly, not forgetting to mock those who support Li Jian. Li Jian's patience hits its breaking point as he begins to question his own status as a saint. Hugo Otters exhales in relief, trying to calm Li Jian down in the face of the Gemini organization's power. Suddenly, Li Jian shouts out, calling Andre and his lackeys cockroaches directly. Andre and his group freeze, turning back with expressions of shock and fury. Li Jian does not flinch, he clenches his fist, reaffirming the label he has chosen for Andre and his lackeys. With firm footsteps, Li Jian approaches the Li Jian who was blocking his path. Li Jian faces him directly, coldly challenging Li Jian to repeat the insults he just uttered. Li Jian points mockingly at Li Jian's face, sneering that Li Jian is nothing more than an ordinary person without a shred of magical power. Before Li Jian can react, Li Jian launches an overwhelming strike, sending Li Jian reeling backward in a daze. The massive impact creates a terrifying shockwave. Li Jian screams in utter panic. Witnessing the horrific scene, those around them freeze, unable to believe their eyes. Li Jian pulls his hand back, his gaze filled with a murderous intent that envelopes the space. Li Jian narrows his eyes, veins bulging on his face, clearly annoyed. Li Jian remains unflinched, glancing at the Li Jian trying to cast magic from behind. With just a powerful flick of his hand, Li Jian shuts down all of Li Jian's attempted attacks. A loud explosion rings out as Li Jian is instantly blasted away. Li Jian brushes off his hands, mocking the Li Jian defeated at his feet. The onlookers panic, questioning Li Jian for brazenly using his powers in the middle of the street. Li Jian responds with arrogance, asserting that if he had truly used his power, they would have been dead long ago. The witnesses are stunned to realize that Li Jian used nothing but his fists to take down A-rank disciples. Li Jian looks pensive, his eyes glancing down at a strange object on Li Jian. Li Jian leans down and retrieves the item that fell from Li Jian. An object resembling a divine pendant appears in Li Jian's palm. Li Jian wonders how Li Jian could possibly possess such a sacred artifact. Li Jian picks up the pendant, sensing the surge of power radiating from it. Li Jian wonders why Li Jian would possess something meant only for saints. Kilian looks at Li Jian in surprise, unable to believe that he knows nothing about how the world has changed. Humanity nearly perished from the calamities, surviving only thanks to the gods and the saints they chose. To protect the world, the saints gathered their followers and formed divine armies. A hierarchical system was established from saints down to disciples, clearly defining the distribution of power. Li Jian listens, understanding that gods require faith from disciples to maintain their strength. Li Jian clenches his fist, realizing the world has changed completely in the 20 years he was gone. Li Jian points forward, his eyes full of suspicion as he faces the unexpected situation. Before Li Jian's eyes, entities taking the form of fiery goats are surrounding him. The system sends a cold message, urging Li Jian to finish off the man and woman to receive a valuable reward. Kilian gasps in shock upon realizing the opponent has caught the attention of the guardian gods. With overwhelming authority, Li Jian declares himself the shadow of the gods and that opposing him means opposing the divine. Li Jian sneers, urging Li Jian to quickly carry out the gods' orders. Li Jian is unfazed, contemptuously calling Li Jian's subordinates greedy gluttons trying to fill their filthy stomachs. Li Jian stomps his foot, releasing a powerful aura that shakes the ground. Power explodes as Li Jian lunges forward at a terrifying speed, shattering the ground beneath him. The impact creates a massive shockwave, wiping out the fiery goats surrounding Li Jian. The roar of the magical entities being destroyed echoes throughout the space. Li Jian cannot help but be amazed, hurriedly backing away from Li Jian's powerful attack. A destructive wave of energy sweeps through the city, throwing everything into chaos. Kilian stands next to Li Jian in shock, shielding himself from the overwhelming pressure. Li Jian roars in fury, unable to believe that Li Jian would actually dare to stand against him. Fury's guardian gods flee in terror as the protective barrier vanishes instantly. Watching the scene unfold, Kilian is stunned to realize that Li Jian is anything but an ordinary person. Li Jian calls out to Han Jimin, his face maintaining a dangerously confident expression. Li Jian points to the Li Jian lying motionless on the ground, questioning whether he is truly a disciple of Gemini. Those are the most influential figures in the country, belonging to the absolute elite force. Li Jian laughs loudly, sarcastically asking if they possess a lot of money given their status. Li Jian relentlessly mocks the expensive designer items that Li Jian is wearing. While singing aloud, Li Jian nonchalantly rummages through the spoils from Li Jian, enjoying the thrill of looting. Li Jian and Jaehoon return home after a long and chaotic day. Jaehoon excitedly points toward his apartment, which is completely dark, while Li Jian listens silently. Jaehoon bows in gratitude, sending his heartfelt thanks to Li Jian for saving his life and bringing him home safely. Li Jian just smiles quietly, offering no reply. A flash of suspicion crosses Li Jian's eyes as he realizes something is amiss. Li Jian grumpily asks Jaehoon if he intends to sponge off him right at his own house. Hairs fall to the floor, a sign that Li Jian has just made a small change to his appearance. Li Jian stands in front of the mirror, showing off his muscular physique and freshly trimmed hair. Li Jian smiles smugly as he sees his own transformation in the mirror. Jaehoon exclaims in awe and excitement at Li Jian's new look. Li Jian secretly marvels at the fact that his precious hair has grown back, no longer a source of anxiety as it once was. Bloodlust suddenly surges. Li Jian frowns as he senses a looming danger. A calamity-bearing creature appears right inside the house, its eyes glowing a menacing red. Without a moment's hesitation, Li Jian unleashes a powerful punch, crushing the creature in the blink of an eye. Jaehoon cannot help but be shocked to witness Li Jian finish off the monster with his bare hands. Li Jian frustratedly wonders why these calamities keep coming after him. Li Jian dismisses the theory that something in the house is attracting the monsters. Li Jian's gaze settles on a shelf where airy artifacts are emitting an evil aura. Li Jian cannot believe his ears when told that these are items blessed by the saints. Li Jian holds an item in his hand, maintaining his skepticism about their true origin. Jaehoon is extremely panicked, holding his nose due to the stench radiating from the supposedly holy relics. Li Jian exposes the truth that this mask is actually an artifact used to track its owner. Jaehoon is horrified to learn that the music box steals personal information while the watch attracts calamities. Fury erupts in Li Jian as he realizes those damn saints not only steal money but also sell evil artifacts for profit. Bloodlust radiates intensely. Li Jian cannot contain his outrage at their shamelessness. Li Jian decides to throw away all that junk immediately. Li Jian throws the artifact hard at Jaehoon, ending the intense interrogation. The door opens and Li Jian appears with an imposing look, causing the atmosphere to suddenly grow heavy. Faced with this unexpected appearance, Jaehoon cannot hide his panic, stammering Li Jian's name. Li Jian coldly responds with a challenging question, his sharp eyes boring into Jaehoon. A blue magical aura blazes around his body as Li Jian loudly asserts his ownership of the house. Li Jian's overwhelming presence makes the room stifling, and all eyes are fixed on him. At the mansion of Yang Wei of the Aries cult, shocking news has just arrived. The middle-aged man is stunned to hear that the guardian gods in South Korea have disappeared without a trace. Fater kneels down, confirming that the South Korean branch is in total chaos. Unable to believe his ears, the middle-aged man exclaims in anger and suspicion. The guardian gods were direct subordinates of the deities, and no awakener would dare touch them. The middle-aged man immediately orders contact with other saints to track down clues. When asked about Hugo, Fater coldly states that Hugo is still missing and might be working as a mercenary in England. However, Fater continues to report that Hugo had left England shortly after arriving. The middle-aged man narrowed his eyes, questioning Hugo about his next destination. A short, sharp answer left the man stunned. The destination is none other than Korea. Lost in deep thought, the man began to piece together all the events that had just unfolded. In the man's mind, Hugo and Li Jian were once the closest of friends. Could Hugo's movements be directly linked to the rumors that Li Jian is still alive? The image of Li Jian flashed through the man's mind, sending shivers down his spine at the possibility that Li Jian might have truly returned. Consumed by rage, the man gripped the artifact in his hands so tightly it nearly shattered. The man roared in desperation, unable to accept the cruel reality unfolding before him. He barked in order to investigate everything immediately, his fury filling the entire room. Fater continued his report about a Gemini disciple who had been found unconscious. The individual had been left on the street completely naked, wearing nothing but their underwear. According to witnesses, this person had been involved in a physical altercation with Li Jian. The incident left the man questioning, could that individual really be Li Jian? He muttered anxiously, feeling that the situation was spiraling from bad to worse. Not only had the guardian deities vanished, but the expedition to conquer the Spider Queen had also failed miserably. Sensing his power was being threatened, the man clenched his fists in indignation. Unable to sit still, the man immediately ordered his private jet to be prepared so he could handle the matter himself. In the solemn room, the man stood in silence before the sacred symbol. He became determined to uncover the truth about what was happening in Korea with his own eyes. His gaze hardened, filled with deep suspicion. He did not trust the reports, he wanted to witness everything firsthand. The destination was a Gemini-affiliated hospital in Korea, a place harboring terrifying secrets. On the hospital bed, a young man lay motionless, his fading breath sustained only by life support machines. Rhythmic sound of the ventilator echoed through the quiet space, signaling the patient's critical condition. Faced with such a heartbreaking scene, the man couldn't contain his composure. Rage flared across his face. He let out a cry of extreme fury. Who would dare to commit such a brutal act, leaving his subordinate as nothing more than a hollow shell? Just then, a cold voice rang out from behind. Sung-hoon appeared, nonchalantly telling the man not to worry too much about what had happened. Sung-hoon, a Gemini disciple, coldly stated that his presence there was strictly by order of the High Council. Jae-hoon interrogates him about the encounter at the Devil's Tower, his eyes filled with suspicion. Jimin confirms the terrifying feats, from Li Jian taking down a calamity with his bare hands to defeating an A-rank disciple. Jae-hoon is furious upon hearing about the destruction of the holy relics, while Li Jian calmly asserts they were nothing but fakes. Jae-hoon sharply asks about the sect Li Jian follows, only to receive a defiant smile in return. Li Jian bluntly declares that he follows no one but himself rather than those 12 foolish gods. Jae-hoon trembles with rage at Li Jian's attitude, struggling to maintain his composure as he demands to know Li Jian's name. Li Jian coldly utters the name, causing the air in the room to instantly freeze over. Jimin frantically tries to calm Jae-hoon, whose mana is beginning to surge violently. Jae-hoon's killing intent explodes. He refuses to accept that Li Jian would dare impersonate his own idol. The power of the Gemini disciple is summoned by Jae-hoon, enveloping him in a deep blue aura of mana. Jimin screams in horror, warning Jae-hoon against such a reckless act inside the house. The system warns that Jae-hoon's mana is spiraling out of control, yet Li Jian remains indifferent, casually observing the spectacle. Li Jian activates his ultimate skill, God's Eyes, to observe Jae-hoon. An information window appears, exposing the strength and skills of Jae-hoon, an A-rank disciple of Gemini. Li Jian gives a meaningful smirk, acknowledging Jae-hoon's talent for using high-level summoning. As the mana surges violently, Jae-hoon prepares to unleash a devastating attack. Panicked, Jimin urges Li Jian to run, revealing that Jae-hoon is a hardcore Li Jian fanatic. Li Jian responds with a cold threat, telling Jimin to get out if he doesn't want to lose his life. Li Jian mockingly warns that playing with fire will cost Jaehoon dearly. In the blink of an eye, Li Jian closes the distance, leaving Jaehoon no time to react. With a single punch, Jaehoon is sent flying, his surrounding mana vanishing in an instant. Li Jian looks down at the fallen Jaehoon with a smirk, mocking him for nearly burning down the entire building. Jimin anxiously checks on Jaehoon's condition while Li Jian remains completely unbothered. Jimin gazes at Li Jian with eyes full of confusion and terror. Jaehoon lies unconscious, looking absolutely pathetic. Li Jian lets out a long yawn and decides to head to bed, ignoring Jimin's panic over Jaehoon. The room door slowly creaks open, revealing the scene inside. Li Jian's appearance leaves both Jimin and Jaehoon in the room stunned and speechless. The room is filled with statues of Li Jian, treasures that Jaehoon values more than his own life. Jimin is stunned by the sight, while Jaehoon trembles, trying to stop Jimin from getting close to his precious collection. Ignoring the warnings, Li Jian ruthlessly snaps the head off a statue, making Jaehoon scream out in agony. Jaehoon frantically tries to stop Li Jian from destroying the collection, but Li Jian only responds with a challenging smirk. Watching his treasures being ruined, Jaehoon wails in despair, unable to believe his eyes. Outside, Tali's coffee shop remains quiet under the sun, completely unaware of the chaos unfolding within. News report breaks about a suspect who humiliated the Gemini disciples, leaving Hugo absolutely stunned. Hugo clutches his head in frustration, realizing the culprit is none other than Li Jian, the very man he just arrived in Korea to find. Waiter approaches to ask about his order, interrupting Hugo's tense train of thought. Without flinching, Hugo coldly exposes the true identity of the person standing before him. The waiter gives a wicked smile, making no effort to hide his amusement that the game was discovered so early. The waiter reveals his true form as Yang Wei's phantom looms over the area, forcing Hugo to face his old enemy. Yang Wei closes in on Hugo, using threatening words to force him to reveal Li Jian's whereabouts. Hugo is absolutely livid, not hesitating for a second to call out Yang Wei's despicable nature. Exposed by Hugo, Yang Wei is momentarily stunned as his control over the host begins to waver. The server snaps back to their senses, confused as to why they are there and what they have just done. Hugo clenches his fists, knowing he must find Li Jian quickly before this, which causes even more trouble. Overwhelmed by surging anxiety and rage, Hugo screams internally, desperate to find Li Jian at once. At a large supermarket in Bucheon, Jimin and Jaehoon are pushing a shopping cart, discussing the mysterious figure they just encountered. Jimin still suspects that man might be Li Jian, but Jaehoon immediately dismisses it, citing how vastly different he looks. Jaehoon angrily rejects Jimin's theory, asserting that Li Jian is a savior of the world, not some common thug like that guy. Jimin stands his ground, claiming he saw Li Jian emerge from the Devil's Tower with terrifying power with his own eyes. Jaehoon stubbornly refuses to believe it, relying on his father's accounts to stand firm before deciding to end the argument to go pay. Suddenly, Jimin and Jaehoon freeze as they sense an abnormal surge of bloodlust closing in. A thief streaks past at terrifying speed. Jaehoon instantly recognizes the technique of a disciple from the Scorpio constellation. Moving like the wind, the thief arrogantly sweeps up every wallet and item in sight. The thief smirks, challenging everyone in the store, boasting that even self-proclaimed saints couldn't catch him. The thief acts smugly satisfied with his haul and prepares to move on to his next location. But just as he is about to leave, an iron grip seizes him from behind. Pure panic sets in as the thief's face contorts in terror, realizing he has fallen into the hands of someone untouchable. Jimin's sudden appearance at the scene leaves the fallen thief in shock. With a nonchalant expression, Jimin casually mentions buying chicken, treating this confrontation like a trivial outing. Facing Jimin, the thief tries to regain his confidence, commending the speed of those following the Scorpio constellation. The thief dismissively judges Jimin's energy as mediocre. He mockingly suggests that Jimin should call the police instead of trying to interfere in his business. Jimin remains silent but internally curses the arrogant and overbearing attitude of the bastard before him. Suddenly, a violent tremor erupts, causing the space around them to shake as if hit by a massive earthquake. Chaos immediately breaks out inside the supermarket. Blood-curdling screams echo everywhere as the ground continues to heave. Feeling the tremors, the thief rejoices inwardly, believing this is his golden opportunity to escape amidst the panic. But at that moment, Jaehoon lunges forward with terrifying speed, closing in on the target and creating razor-sharp gusts of wind that tear through the air. Despite being blocked by Jaehoon, the thief refuses to give up his escape plan. He reassures himself that this earthquake is the savior that will help him get away. Before he can act, the thief freezes. His eyes widen in sheer horror at the unbelievable sight unfolding right before him. A colossal entity rises from the earth, crushing everything in its path with brutal, destructive power. The thief is completely paralyzed. He screams in despair upon realizing it is a calamity, something that should never appear in a green zone. Overpowered by extreme fear, the thief immediately turns and bolts for his life to avoid being caught in this deadly nightmare. The monster swings its long, side-like tail, tearing through space and nearly claiming the thief's life in an instant. Even on the brink of death, the thief remains conceited. He believes that with his skills, no calamity could ever catch up. A fatal slash suddenly rings out, blood splattering through the air, putting an end to the runner's arrogance. Out of the dense clouds of dust, a spectral entity with a terrifying form slowly emerges to the horror of the crowd. Its glowing red eyes coldly scan the trembling, tiny humans, spreading crippling fear throughout the entire area. The calamity's brutal visage and blood-red eyes send a chilling shiver down the spine of anyone who accidentally looks its way. The emergency system broadcasts continuous alerts, ordering all civilians to evacuate the supermarket immediately for their safety. A young boy frantically searching for an exit is suddenly stopped by a hand, accompanied by a voice full of authority. Jimin appears just in time, his gaze sharp yet calm, as he asks the boy about the situation. Zero, overcome with terror, the young boy couldn't even find the words to respond. He just kept running blindly, leaving Jimin all alone to face the looming threat. 1. Watching the boy's silhouette as he finally escaped the danger zone, Jimin let out a faint sigh of relief. 2. Scanning his surroundings, Jimin couldn't help but feel suspicious at the unusually high number of calamities appearing in the supermarket this time. 3. The air grew thick with tension. Jimin dropped into a combat stance, focusing with absolute intensity as he prepared to plunge into a life-or-death battle. Flashing a confident smirk, Jimin declared that it had been quite a while since he last had a real workout, making this the perfect chance to warm up. A luxury car speeds away, leaving behind a trail of extreme tension. Inside the car, Yang Wei growls, demanding his subordinate to repeat the information just heard. Yang Wei receives a report about a disaster that just broke out at Buchan Market. He immediately interrogates them about the severity of the threat. The name Spider Queen echoes like a curse. Yang Wei turns pale, realizing the entity they once sealed has now escaped. Yang Wei clenches his fists, full of anxiety as he realizes he is not strong enough to face a red-level disaster alone. The hazard classification system begins with the blue level, considered the pure sanctuary of the gods. Next is the green level, an area marked as safe for humanity. The yellow level represents caution, where ruined buildings warn of potential dangers. The orange level is a danger zone where hideous monsters dwell, requiring everyone to find shelter immediately. The red level is the nightmare, where the entities that rule over disasters are waiting. And finally, the black level, a symbol for the total annihilation of humanity. The appearance of the Spider Queen means the market has officially become a deadly red level zone. Yang Wei's henchman anxiously asks for his opinion on how to handle the situation at the market. Yang Wei coldly issues a ruthless command, ordering them to bury everything. Yang Wei wants to cover up his failure, as news of the organization's weakness would cause endless trouble. Yang Wei orders the elimination of everyone present at the scene to preserve their reputation. At the market, the atmosphere becomes thick with death. Monstrous spiders rise in unison, ready to devour all life. A hunter appears, shrouded in a powerful blue aura of magical energy. Bursting with anger, he unleashes an attack that freezes the ground in the blink of an eye. The glacial prison ultimate skill is activated, imprisoning the monsters in eternal ice. He looks at the monsters with contempt, wondering if they are looking down on an S-rank hunter. The ice cracks, and the monsters begin to resist violently. A monster roars, shattering the icy chains with ease. The hunter is shocked to see his magic broken so quickly. Just then, Sung Jinwoo steps forward with a casual demeanor, ordering the other hunter to step aside. The hunter is stunned, not understanding when Sung Jinwoo had appeared. Sung Jinwoo smiles defiantly, asking the monsters if they are hungry enough to resort to cannibalizing humans. Sung Jinwoo delivers a decisive strike. A blue energy aura wraps around his fist, creating a blinding trail of light. Sung Jinwoo roars with power, commanding the monsters to taste this attack instead of humans. The monster gapes wide, screaming in horror as Sung Jinwoo's blow lands. The impact is strong enough to tear through space, leaving behind trails of blood and the remains of the annihilated monsters. Sung Jinwoo stands there, his eyes burning with killing intent, still gripping the blood-stained dagger, coldly threatening the remaining monsters. The witnesses are speechless, standing frozen before Sung Jinwoo's overwhelming power. A notification from the system appears, confirming that Sung Jinwoo has neutralized the threat. A series of level-up and item acquisition notifications appear continuously before Sung Jinwoo, leaving him curious about those strange materials. A glittering crystal shard appears in Sung Jinwoo's palm, promising the ability to craft skills and divine artifacts. Sung Jinwoo smiles, confident that even with a 50% reduction in physical stats, he is stronger than ever. Yang Wei looks at Sung Jinwoo with a look of terror, unable to believe he easily defeated the monsters despite his own S-rank magic. Sung Jinwoo casually holds the dagger he retrieved, leaving those around him bewildered as to when he had taken it. Sung Jinwoo wears a mysterious smile, leaving Yang Wei wondering who he truly is. Yang Wei is stunned, left speechless by Sung Jinwoo's sudden appearance. Sung Jinwoo coldly calls Yang Wei an outsider, his tone dripping with disdain. Yang Wei, furious, asserts that Sung Jinwoo is the very criminal who ambushed his disciples. The shadows of the true masterminds emerge, looming over Sung Jinwoo like an ominous warning. Without giving Yang Wei a moment to react, Sung Jinwoo lands a punch square in his face, cutting off his accusations. Sung Jinwoo stands tall, looking down at Yang Wei sprawled on the ground, mocking his stupidity. Yang Wei screams in pain and rage, unable to believe he has been defeated so easily. Sung Jinwoo points at Yang Wei, exposing the fact that he stole the disciples' badges. A mysterious figure appears, claiming those badges are sacred artifacts meant only for the disciples of Gemini. Yang Wei stubbornly blames Sung Jinwoo, insisting his power comes from that gift. Sung Jinwoo holds the badge in his hand and crushes it with a look of utter contempt. Yang Wei shrieks in madness as he watches his precious artifact being destroyed. Sung Jinwoo sneers that it was merely a trinket while reminding him of the one pulling the strings behind the scenes. The shadow dinosaur monster reappears, roaring into the darkness. Sung Jinwoo stands firm, sensing the encroaching danger. The people around them panic, pointing at the shadow dinosaur as they realize the true threat. Sung Jinwoo calmly calls out his enemy's name. The Spider Queen has arrived. Sung Jinwoo unleashes his power. A blue aura envelopes his body, causing the surrounding space to tremble violently. Without a hint of hesitation, Sung Jinwoo charges toward his target at breakneck speed. Sung Jinwoo calls out his opponent, standing alone against the massive Spider Queen. A cataclysmic collision ensues. The sheer force of Sung Jinwoo's strike causes the ground beneath the Spider Queen to shatter. Witnessing this scene, the onlookers are left in shock, their faces etched with pure terror. They stand frozen, speechless before the overwhelming power unfolding right before their eyes. Min Sung-hoon gasps in disbelief, struggling to process what he has just witnessed. Sung Jinwoo dives into a life-or-death battle with the Spider Queen without needing any sacred artifacts. Amidst the chaos, the authoritative voice of Choi Sung-hyuk echoes through telepathy. Min Sung-hoon and his teammates immediately recognize that it is Choi Sung-hyuk relaying a message. Choi Sung-hyuk issues an urgent command, ordering Min Sung-hoon and Cheon Sung-jae to evacuate the building immediately. A flash of red energy engulfs the entire building, signaling that danger is imminent. Choi Sung-hyuk warns that Yang Wei is coming personally, and this Spider Queen is something even Yang Wei cannot subdue. Choi Sung-hyuk exposes the conspiracy of those trying to cover up the truth to protect their own interests. Choi Sung-hyuk pressures Min Sung-hoon, demanding he use his teleportation skill to get Cheon Sung-jae out right now. Min Sung-hoon is stunned, his eyes filled with fear as he realizes the dire situation. The scene is chaotic. The injured are helping each other flee the area. Monsters crawl through the rubble, ready to tear apart anyone who stands in their way. Sung Jinwoo is still giving his all in battle, unflinched by the overwhelming presence of the Spider Queen. Min Sung-hoon stands rooted to the spot, sweat pouring down his face. Choi Sung-hyuk coldly asks again, the pressure in his voice making the very air feel frozen. Min Sung-hoon offers a forced smile, his eyes vacant and haunted. Min Sung-hoon kang din chek nich rang moi chungen van nam trong tam kim sot. Cheon Sung-jae stands there with a look of pure anxiety, sweat pouring down his face like a waterfall. The character responds with a cold gaze, questioning the strange anomalies unfolding before them. Cheon Sung-jae flashes a sinister grin, his eyes gleaming as if he's just made a ruthless decision. Character 2 screams in absolute panic, realizing the dire straits they are now trapped in. Cheon Sung-jae turns his back, coldly confirming the horrific reality that they are all about to be buried alive. Cheon Sung-jae begins to explain the catastrophic consequences should the Spider Queen emerge in the heart of the city. Character 2 is left in shock, unable to believe what they've just heard. Cheon Sung-jae casually manipulates the situation, insisting that unwavering faith is the only way to receive divine protection. Cheon Sung-jae checks his phone, announcing there are only 2 teleports left and he intends to prioritize himself. Character 2, filled with resentment, tries to plead for the lives of their friend and the civilians who haven't evacuated yet. Cheon Sung-jae loses his patience, shouting at the resistance of those he deems inferior. Without a moment's hesitation, Cheon Sung-jae unleashes his frost powers, encasing his body in ice. Cheon Sung-jae declares he will eliminate anyone standing in his way to fulfill the saint's command. The character erupts in rage, their eyes blazing with raw power. The character lets out an angry roar, ready to face Cheon Sung-jae head-on. Cheon Sung-jae scoffs at the character's naivety, claiming they aren't even on the same level. Cheon Sung-jae continues his mockery, forcing the character to make a critical decision. Cheon Sung-jae suddenly launches a devastating frost attack. A powerful impact sends dust and debris flying, pushing the group back. The character lands on the ground, surprised to see everyone is still there. Character urges everyone to escape quickly because the area has become far too dangerous. Character 2 panics, explaining that the exit has been completely blocked by the disaster. Cheon Sungjae lies collapsed under the rubble, still clutching the teleportation device tightly in his hand. Spider Queen appears, menacing and terrifying, forcing them to face a life or death choice. The injured are helped away, while members of the Ares cult scramble to seal off the area. The character feels a throbbing headache amid the chaos while Cheon Sungjae groans under the stone debris. Cheon Sungjae screams in agony as he is pinned down, unable to comprehend what is happening. The character confronts Cheon Sungjae for abandoning everyone, triggering another angry outburst from him. Cheon Sungjae curses everyone, hell-bent on finding his own way out. Cheon Sungjae stares intensely at his phone with a look of extreme tension. Suddenly, a strange creature emerges, firing sticky webs that bind Cheon Sungjae tightly. Cheon Sungjae screams in terror, "This can't be happening." The creature lunges forward, its mouth filled with razor-sharp fangs. Cheon Sungjae's phone hits the ground and shatters, marking the end of his desperate efforts. The character and Character 2 stand frozen, witnessing the gruesome scene unfolding before them. A cold voice rings out, issuing orders to the character and Character 2. The mysterious character firmly guards the position and demands they take the injured away immediately. Without wasting a second, the mysterious character asserts that they will finish this quickly. The pressure from the battle spreads throughout the building. Lao Chen asks about the situation and receives confirmation that the building has been completely sealed. The bodyguard is skeptical about the effectiveness of the barrier, feeling that things are still far from settled. The bodyguards are confused and panicked as the barrier fails to function as expected. A massive surge of energy erupts, shattering all defensive measures. Lao Chen and his bodyguards are struck with terror at the sheer power displayed. A colossal entity emerges, baring its fangs in a menacing display. The creature lunges straight at the building, triggering a violent whirlwind. Lao Chen is gripped by extreme panic as he catches sight of the gargantuan entity. The surrounding crowd begins to flee in utter chaos. People scream for help as the catastrophe unfolds right inside the building. Lao Chen cannot believe that someone has actually managed to capture the spiders. Lao Chen decides to go and investigate the situation himself. Lao Chen walks forward with an air of authority, ignoring all attempts to stop him. Violent, relentless attacks rain down upon the building. The third-floor door is obliterated, revealing a scene of utter devastation. Lao Chen struggles to keep his balance following the explosion. Lao Chen stands frozen, stunned by the sight before him. The carcass of the creature lies there, evidence of a horrific battle. Lao Chen is left bewildered, wondering who could have possibly slain such a monster. The traces of the battle remain, leaving Lao Chen deeply suspicious about who hunted the Spider Queen. Cheon Sungjae pulls at his hair in frustration, feeling that things are becoming more complicated than ever. An unfamiliar surge of energy suddenly appears, causing Cheon Sungjae to turn around in shock, his intuition warning him of something sinister. Without hesitation, Cheon Sungjae immediately moves to a higher vantage point to observe the situation below. From above, Cheon Sungjae is horrified to spot someone he never wanted to encounter at this moment. It is the mysterious robed figure. Their presence alone makes the atmosphere suffocatingly tense. Cheon Sungjae begins to piece the events together. Could the mysterious robed figure be the one behind all this chaos? Just as Cheon Sungjae is lost in thought, a familiar, menacing voice echoes right beside him. Cheon Sungjae freezes as he realizes the mysterious robed figure is speaking. He is being cornered. With a mocking smile, the mysterious robed figure stares directly at Cheon Sungjae and sneers at his panicked expression. Seeing the face of the mysterious robed figure clearly, Cheon Sungjae is paralyzed with horror, unable to believe his eyes at the truth unveiled. The sirens wail incessantly, signaling that a dangerous incident has just occurred. The scene is chaotic, with rescue workers rushing to evacuate the injured from the danger zone. Amidst the crowd, Sungjae and Xiaoxia sit slumped on the ground, both appearing exhausted and drained. Xiaoxia can't help but feel suspicious, wondering if that man is truly Li Jian, given how familiar his fighting style seems. Xiaoxia suddenly calls out Sungji's name upon recognizing a familiar face. Hugo Otters appears with a stern expression, questioning Sungji's presence at the scene. Xiaoxia exclaims in astonishment when he realizes Hugo Otters is standing right in front of him. Faced with Hugo Otters' attitude, Xiaoxia can only offer a wry, sarcastic smile. Hugo Otters falls deep in thought, trying to maintain his composure in this awkward situation. Hugo Otters assesses the pair's condition, confirming that they aren't seriously injured and will be fine soon after treatment. Hugo Otters shifts the conversation, pressing Sungjae about what happened inside the supermarket. Hugo Otters grows frustrated, wondering who on earth Sungjae picked up this bad habit from. Sungjae cautiously asks about Li Jian's status, leaving Hugo Otters stunned. Hugo Otters lunges forward, grabbing Sungjae by the collar with an agitated look. Hugo Otters bellows, demanding that Sungjae explain Li Jian's whereabouts immediately. Sungjae hesitates, double-checking the identity of the person Hugo Otters is referring to. Hugo Otters confirms that Li Jian is the one who took down the Spider Queen and is currently inside the supermarket. Hugo Otters' expression is filled with anxiety and tension whenever Li Jian is mentioned. The scene is in ruins, the air thick with tension following the battle. Imposter is channeling his internal energy, radiating a crimson killing intent that envelopes the surroundings. Li Jian stands opposite, casually watching as the imposter braces himself for an attack. Li Jian wears a challenging smirk, mocking the imposter for suddenly attacking him after 20 years of silence. The imposter is struck with disbelief, unable to believe his own eyes at the sight of Li Jian. Li Jian maintains a calm expression, wondering why the imposter would doubt his identity. The imposter screams crazily, accusing Li Jian of being a fake. Li Jian raises an eyebrow, looking puzzled at the baseless accusation. Unable to keep his composure, the imposter continues to hurl aggressive threats. Before the imposter can react, Li Jian delivers a thunderous punch to his gut, sending him crashing down. Li Jian lunges forward with terrifying speed, creating shockwaves that tear through the air. Not giving the imposter a chance to recover, Li Jian pours all his power into his fist, ready to deliver the finishing blow. A deafening explosion echoes through the area, with dust and debris obscuring the view. The imposter lies defeated beneath the rubble, his breath shallow, completely overwhelmed by Li Jian's power. Li Jian stands tall, his cold gaze piercing the imposter as he mocks his foolishness. Li Jian steps closer, gritting his teeth as he recounts the crimes the imposter has committed. A lethal aura radiates from Li Jian. He no longer has any intention of showing mercy to the imposter. The imposter is gripped by utter terror at Li Jian's stern declaration of war, as his wealth and reputation stand on the brink of total annihilation. Li Jian's power causes the space around them to tremble, as if threatening to crush everything into dust. The imposter grinds his teeth, blood seeping from his mouth, swearing he won't let Li Jian succeed. The sheer disparity in speed and power makes the imposter realize he is facing a true monster. Li Jian's silhouette appears full of majesty, leaving the imposter to wonder in shock if this is truly the legend who has returned from the tower. The imposter trembles, struggling to maintain his composure under the suffocating pressure of Li Jian's presence. A crimson energy begins to erupt beneath the imposter's feet, signaling that a dangerous technique is about to be unleashed. The imposter hovers in mid-air, shrouded in a blood-red aura radiating pure killing intent. Defying Li Jian, the imposter summons magical blades, readying himself for a battle to the death. Brilliant red magic circle manifests beneath the imposter, while Li Jian stands opposite him, prepared to take on the attack. The imposter goes berserk, unleashing his power with bloodshot eyes brimming with murderous intent. The system announces the arrival of a divine entity, causing the very air to thicken and stagnate. Jade Emperor manifests, his divine power enveloping the imposter. Li Jian smirks, completely unfazed by the presence of this god. Wielding the divine power, the imposter fires bolts of crimson lightning from his fingertips. Glowing red magical chains lash out towards Li Jian, locking his position in place. Even surrounded by the magical chains, Li Jian's gaze remains unshakable. The imposter roars, fully confident that Li Jian has been completely subdued. Thousands of light blades are summoned, creating a rain of crimson swords directed at Li Jian. The imperial technique is activated, with destructive power waiting to be unleashed. Under the protection of the Jade Emperor, the imposter delivers a decisive blow to the shackled Li Jian. A horrifying explosion engulfs the space, leaving everything in ruins within the red light. Li Jian remains calm, uttering a sarcastic remark praising the power of the recent strike. Lao Chen screams in terror as he faces the overwhelming pressure descending upon him. Amidst thousands of razor-sharp swords, Li Jian stands still, as calm as if nothing had happened. A storm of sword chi erupts, tearing apart the ground beneath Li Jian's feet. Thousands of upright swords form a tower of death, engulfing the entire space. Lao Chen is aghast, unable to believe his eyes as he wonders if Li Jian has truly fallen. Li Jian's footsteps echo with immense power, shattering the silence left by the previous attack. Lao Chen smirks, complacent in his belief that the power gained from his experience points far exceeds Li Jian's. Li Jian retaliates with a challenging question, causing Lao Chen's smile to vanish instantly. Lao Chen turns pale, his smile twisting in fear as he realizes Li Jian's overwhelming dominance. The swords begin to glow, vibrating violently under Li Jian's control. Lao Chen's eyes bulge, a horrifying truth begins to dawn in his mind. Countless swords explode, creating a massive shockwave that sweeps away everything in the vicinity. Li Jian delivers a thunderous punch, sending Lao Chen flying directly into the debris. Lao Chen lies on the ground, bleeding and trembling as he gasps out the name of the person he cannot believe is standing before him. Li Jian stands tall, laughing arrogantly as he looks down at the writhing Lao Chen. Li Jian's eyes glow brightly, reaffirming his powerful return. Amidst the ruins, Old Chen stood in shock, staring at Li Jian, unable to believe he was still alive after that horrific battle. Li Jian smirked, meeting Old Chen's disbelief with a defiant gaze after just delivering a fatal blow. Li Jian's eyes burned with killing intent as he asserted his powerful return, striking absolute terror into Old Chen's heart. Li Jian curled his lip in a sneer, mocking the foul stench emanating from Old Chen's weapon. Old Chen completely collapsed, unable to fathom how Li Jian could recover so quickly that even master healers would have given up. System suddenly announced the unlocking of the 13th sense skill due to his near-death experience. Li Jian grinned wildly as his power surged once more. A lethal glint flashed in Li Jian's eyes. He was ready for the next act. Li Jian stepped forward, preparing a test strike that left Old Chen trembling and begging for mercy at his feet. Old Chen shook in pure horror, unable to accept the reality that Li Jian was still standing. Amidst a string of curses, Old Chen fled in a panic, leaving nothing but a void at the scene. Li Jian mocked him, remarking that Old Chen must have realized his own futility to vanish so hastily. Han Siwu entered the ruined scene, his arrival immediately drawing every eye. Han Siwu couldn't hide his shock at the horrific scene of chaos that had just unfolded there. On the shattered ground, the corpses of monsters lay scattered, grim evidence of the brutal battle that had just concluded. Han Siwu observed the scene with a pensive and thoughtful expression. Han Siwu sensed a strange and mysterious aura permeating the entire space. A fiery magic circle erupted, causing the surrounding space to distort and tremble before Han Siwu's eyes. Han Siwu realized the strange energy was radiating from the ruins, and a sense of dread began to wash over him. Han Siwu doubted anyone could still be alive under the rubble, as the energy signature felt incredibly faint. Han Siwu cried out in confusion, unable to make sense of the bizarre situation. Li Jian coldly ordered Han Siwu to stay back. Han Siwu screamed in horror as he saw Li Jian preparing to take action. A world-shaking explosion occurred as a blinding light swallowed everything in its path. An enemy was blasted out of the ruins, his body enveloped in a furious, raging aura. The figure landed and calmly dusted off his clothes with an eerily composed demeanor. He was filled with shock and rage upon realizing it was Li Jian who had caused all of this. Staring at a paper filled with provocative words, he lost his cool at the sheer madness of Li Jian. Sky remained clear and blue, a stark contrast to the absolute chaos unfolding on the ground. Li Jian nonchalantly walked toward the building, whistling confidently as if nothing had happened. Li Jian stopped before the building, his sharp gaze piercing the air, wondering if the artifact Yang Wei stole was truly hidden inside. An exhibition space appeared with lavish displays, attracting a crowd of people busy capturing the sight. A bust made of pure gold sat prominently under the lights, radiating a grotesque level of ostentation. Li Jian looked around the grand hall with contempt, knowing the person behind this was just making a ridiculous show of wealth. Li Jian's nose twitched as the familiar scent of the artifact wafted through the air, guiding his way. Seeing the rows of fake weapons on display, Li Jian couldn't help but laugh at the forger's sheer clumsiness. Suddenly, a familiar object sitting prominently on a velvet tray caught Li Jian's eye. Unbelievably, the item so carefully placed inside the glass case was none other than an old toothache Li Jian used to use. Li Jian pressed his face against the glass, his eyes shining as if he had found the most precious treasure in the world. A loud noise erupted, followed by panic from the bystanders as Li Jian decided to make his move. Red sirens began to wail, tearing through the silence of the building. Old Tran and the security team were immediately mobilized. The men in black suits rushed to the scene with murderous intent. Amidst the chaos, Li Jian stood there nonchalantly, holding the item in his hand without a hint of flinching. Hundreds of gun barrels were pointed directly at Li Jian, with a stern warning demanding his immediate surrender. Li Jian muttered under his breath, his eyes glancing at the surrounding crowd as if they were total fools. A haughty smile spread across Li Jian's lips as dark energy began to envelop his fingers. The powerful snap of his fingers, Li Jian released a force that made the surrounding air tremble. The lightning-fast attack brought Old Tran and the guards to their knees. Li Jian mockingly advised them to use something more familiar. Lime's appearance brought a new surge of power as the system confirmed Li Jian had successfully collected the divine artifact. System notifications popped up continuously, unlocking the workshop skill along with a series of powerful support features. Li Jian looked at Lime affectionately, his mood lifted by achieving his goal, and suggested they leave immediately. The large door ahead glowed brightly as energy from the Ares divine artifact radiated intensely. Li Jian had no intention of leaving empty-handed. A calculating smile reappeared on his face. Li Jian's hand gripped the doorknob, preparing for an exciting sweep. Texu rushed over in a panic, his face etched with worry as he realized he had arrived too late. The scene inside the building was descending into chaos, with screams echoing from every corner. Teksu screamed in despair, desperately trying to warn everyone about the explosion that had just occurred. In contrast to the panic, Li Jian casually carried his massive loot, feeling his stomach begin to growl with hunger. Teksu was stunned upon seeing Li Jian, unable to believe his eyes at what was unfolding. Li Jian stopped, surprised to see Teksu standing right in front of him. Catching sight of the familiar figure, Teksu couldn't contain his emotions and charged forward like a bullet, tears streaming down his face as he screamed Li Jian's name. Watching Teksu rush toward him, Li Jian smirked smugly, thinking that Teksu still had a bit of loyalty as a friend after all. However, the moment they met, Teksu grabbed Li Jian and began scolding him relentlessly, blaming him for being alive but not showing up immediately. Teksu's excessive concern and constant nagging started to irritate Li Jian, causing veins to pop on his forehead. Without letting Teksu finish his sentence, Li Jian delivered a sharp flying kick straight to his face to shut him up. Standing over the floored Teksu, Li Jian coldly declared that if he kept blabbering, he would face real punishment, not just a warning kick. While clutching his head in pain, Teksu suddenly froze as he realized Lime was hovering right before his eyes. Teksu's gaze was fixed on Lime, shocked to realize this was Li Jian's close companion from years ago. Li Jian flashed a dangerous smile, asking Teksu if he needed another beating to snap back to his senses. All doubts vanished, and Teksu burst into happiness, lunging forward to embrace Li Jian, the best friend he had long awaited. Sobbing hysterically, Teksu shouted in joy, still unable to believe that Li Jian was truly alive and standing there in the flesh. In contrast to Teksu's warmth, Li Jian only felt annoyed and creeped out by such an overly affectionate hug. Li Jian bluntly pushed Teksu to the ground and scolded him for that crazy hugging, but Teksu could only laugh through his tears of joy. Just as the atmosphere was settling down, a system notification suddenly appeared. The god of Sagittarius, Apollon, has appeared. Li Jian stared blankly at the glowing blue notification. Apollon's sudden appearance took him completely by surprise. Amidst a brilliant aura, Apollon, with shimmering golden hair and an overwhelming presence, gradually revealed himself to everyone's astonishment. Apollon's eyes remained tightly shut, but the pressure emanating from him made the surrounding space feel heavy. Suddenly, Apollon snapped his glowing eyes open, a mysterious smile playing on the lips of this powerful god. Both Teksu and Li Jian were stunned by this presence. The tension reached a breaking point as they faced Apollon. Looking at Apollon standing tall within the aura, Li Jian couldn't help but wonder why he chose this exact moment to appear.